Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whatever it is that you're tuning in to watch today's episode. My name is Jonathan Bengal, and I'm the host of Naked Tax Talk, where babies we bear down to the naked truth about who we are, our businesses, and our money. Because what I know to be true is that when we improve upon the self, the business, which is a reflection of who we are, also improves, and the money, honey, is also a reflection of who we are and also of our businesses. And that too increases. And when you work with a certified tax planner like myself, the taxes go down. I'm really excited to have a really fun guest here with us today. Her name is Teresa Porter, and she is an amazing yoga instructor, first of all. But secondly, she is some powerful, powerful woman who's been doing some stuff for over 21 years. She's going to talk about her shit. But I promise you, though, it's more than that. So don't get too offended too quickly, because it's actually going to be more powerful and more in depth. And we're going to find out a whole lot about who this woman is and really what shit really means. So without much further ado, I forgot. I want to read from my book right now, The ABCs of Deductions. In case you don't have my copy of my book yet and you want your copy, go on to Amazon.com. Just look it up, The ABCs of Deductions, an Entrepreneur's Guide to Tax Write-Offs. By the way, I'm super excited to announce that this book will be available directly from my website, jonathanbengal.com. Here pretty soon, probably in the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to buy it directly from me, which I'm really excited. It's a mere $12.97. But when I wrote this book, I wanted to take away all of the legalese. And one of the letters that I wrote was P for professional development. And this is what I wrote. P is for professional development. If we do not invest in our companies, they will stagnate and die. Our dear Uncle Sam figured out that in order for businesses to stay alive and make money and create abundance, it needed to allow owners and their employees to invest in their professional growth. How? By attending seminars, paying for business coaches, tax coaches, speaking coaches, marketing coaches, basically any coach that will have an impact on your company's ability to make money, honey. Uncle Sam really likes smart people and rewards you by continuing to invest in yourself as well as in your business. This is what I wrote from my book right here, just a sample of one of the letters. I am coming to you live from my backyard, I have to tell you. So I got some peanut gallery over here called my dogs. They will bark and make noise like right now, but I digress. So without much further ado, let us meet Teresa Porter. Teresa, welcome to
Hi.
Naked Tax Talk Raw.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on your platform and talk to you about my background, where I've come from.
Yes, ma'am. And more importantly, just to chew the fat and talk about all the amazing things that you do as a release and a realignment and reset coach. So Teresa, tell us a little about who you are and what's your deal?
Sure. So I am a mother of three. So I should say I have two full-time jobs, and I've been married to my husband for going almost 23 years. We met when we were really young. We got young. So that in itself has been a journey of navigating us and our own personal journeys and raising kids, and both of us, stepping into our professions. My profession, first of massage therapy. So I've been a massage therapist going on 22 years, and everything I've gotten into has been a personal testament for me. So I was in a car accident in 8th grade. And long story short, I went to several medical Western doctors, and nobody was helping me feel better. And at the time, I was a gymnast, and I had severe whiplash, and I had to stop being in gymnastics. I couldn't do 8th grade PE. I couldn't ride a bike. Like, all the activities I enjoyed doing, I couldn't do anymore. And it wasn't until I started seeing some natural practitioners, like a chiropractor and several other, that I started feeling better. And one of the practitioners was a massage therapist. I was just fascinated by this innate ability that my body had to heal when I started seeing these natural practitioners. So I knew by my sophomore year in high school, I wanted to be a massage therapist. Well, there were several people in my life at the time that were naysayers, including my dad, that said that wasn't a real profession, that I needed to go to school and get a degree or something that would bring me a steady income. And so I listened to them for about a year, started going to community college here in the Valley. And I just, long story short, like that was constantly in the back of my head. And by then I had met my husband. I wouldn't shut up about this massage school I had checked out. And he's like, would you just go already? Like, you've checked it out, you've done the background, like just do it, you know? And so I did. And then I had our first daughter in 2002. Excuse me, I have 3 daughters. So my first daughter was in 2002, and I had severe back pain. And again, nobody could figure out what's going on. I got an MRI, got checked out by the doctor. No one can figure out what's going on with my back. So I was like, well, I'm just going to figure out doing this on my own. I've heard yoga and Pilates is really good for your back, so I'm going to go try that. Well, I started doing that regularly. When I did, my chronic back pain went away. So I'm the girl that's fascinated by the why. Like, why is this working for my body? Why is this working for me? And so I went to Scottsdale Community College and I got my yoga teacher training. At the same time, I got trained in Pilates at somewhere else through another foundation. So that was my journey of yoga. And that is my passion. Like, I love massage, but I'm be honest, I'm getting burnt out. I'm going on 22 years. It's really hard on my body, but I love yoga. Like, there's so many layers to yoga. There's so many different ways I can teach yoga to people. Like, there's so many ways to apply it into your life off the mat too. Mm-hmm. And that's the part I love. And so with that, I've worked all over the Valley. I've taught at retreats in Sedona for autoimmune disease. I've been able to work with athletes with yoga. I've taught at wellness centers. I've taught at Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. I mean, I've been all over the Valley teaching.
Love it.
That's my true passion. Unfortunately, I'm not teaching right now, everything with COVID, right? And so I'm getting the itch really bad to get back into it. So I'm starting to dip my feet into some
maybe some virtual. Do you do virtual yoga events? Do you do virtual yoga?
I've done a few. So I started hosting online classes, and one of them was Release Your Hips, Release Your Emotions. And this is the third component of what I've gotten into is over the years of working on people and teaching, especially teaching at these events for autoimmune disease, they specifically wanted me to address the chakras and the root chakra and the heart chakra and poses that would help open up those areas. And the more I started studying that and how it's connected to people's trauma, not only from a yoga perspective, but also when I've worked on people on the table, I go in to do a psoas release, which is through the hips. It's a low back muscle, or any type of abdomen work, depending on what's going on. Some females, I can't work in that area because it's so sensitive, and they're very protective because of past trauma, whatever that might have been.
Okay.
So I created this.
Wait, hold on. Wait, I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, so let's talk. Hold on. Okay. For those peoples out there, I happen to know a thing or two about these chakras she's talking about. But if the people out there, some of my viewers may not know what the hell you're talking about. So these chakras, there's different ones, right? And there's one in particular that resides at our lower end, like close to our sex organs, right?
Yeah, it's the root. It's by the sacrum, like below your pubic bone.
Below the pubic bone. So there is this particular chakra, and chakra really it's a point, right, of energy in which it's flowing throughout our body. And for my Buddhist practice, we know this as the subtle winds, right? The subtle energy. So you're basically helping to clear up these chakras, right? Because they can get gunged up and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is that some women are sensitive. I'd imagine some men too, perhaps, are sensitive with that chakra. Do you help with clearing some of that up?
I don't specialize in clearing chakras. I've just learned how to clear it and kind of balance it through yoga poses. So in this particular retreat I was teaching in Sedona, it was probably like 10 to 12 women. They all had different autoimmune diseases. Okay. And we really focused on the root chakra. And why we were focusing on the root chakra is because that's where that's where you hold a lot of childhood trauma. And that's where like safety, security comes from. So like growing up, if you had that trauma, you didn't have that safety, security. it'll get blocked, and then it changes how your perception of like yourself and those around you. There's a lot that goes into that per se, but I just have learned how different yoga poses help open up and release those different chakras, especially the heart chakra. And when that gets blocked or stuck, that can affect how you not only like self-love, self-forgiveness for yourself, but those for around you when that's blocked. Like, so when I worked with my clients in my program, the Unplugged program, we really focus on those two chakras primarily, and the throat chakra, because a lot of women have been stifled. They haven't found their voice. They don't speak their truth until they start getting into like their 30s and 40s, and then that's when they start realizing that they need to start expressing themselves more because they've been suppressed for so long. So those are the main chakras that we focus on, are those three. But even with the heart chakra, there's a lot there with, women can be very critical of themselves, and they just have a hard time really fully forgiving themselves or fully loving themselves where they're at, because they're always judging and comparing. And I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, but those are the chakras that we focus on. So not only have I learned to do that with yoga, but I've also learned an emotional release technique called the emotion code. So I've learned to blend the three together. So I have them do inner work with movement and doing the emotional release work, which is the emotion code. So there are several different types of emotional release techniques. I know some people have heard of EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. So you tap on different areas of your body to help release different emotions.
Oh, okay.
So I learned this years ago, like when I was in massage school in '99, is that they trained that, they wanted to educate us that our clients could have an emotional release while on the table. And why is that happening? So your muscle hold memory. And again, it comes back to like, what type of trauma have you experienced in your life? So when you're getting that particular muscle worked on, like I've seen it happen over the 2 decades of working on clients, like people just start crying and they didn't recall that they were still holding on to that. But all of a sudden, like a memory will come into their mind and they'll start talking about an event in their life. And I've heard it all. I've heard everything under the sun.
That was me. That happened to me. Yes,
so you got a massage and you had an emotional release.
Oh, totally. Yes, I was. Okay, wait. Oh my God, I gotta tell you a story. Story time. Hold on, because this is so back in. Okay, I met Blaine in 2009. So it was 2009 or 10. It's when Michael Jackson had passed away, and somehow or another we ended up in West Hollywood. And so, first of all, there's a story here about I hit on a celebrity. I didn't even know they were a celebrity. First of all, but secondly, we went there for these massages. I think it was called the Westin, I guess, or the West something, was a Hilton or something. But anyways, so we were getting massages, and it was the first time I was getting a stone massage, a warm stone massage.
Yeah, I do
and
that.
So, let me tell you, I thought I was being made love to, first of all, because it was so amazing. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want to sexualize massages because that's not what this is about. But like, I legit felt like I was being made love to just because of the way the pressure was just right. It was hitting all the spots. And then right when he was done, so he was done massaging my back, all of a sudden I realized that I was like bawling. Like I was just like, and I didn't talk it through or anything. I mean, it was just like, I realized that I was just letting whatever that was letting it out, just letting it all out.
So do you know if it was connected to anything, or did any memory come to the surface when you were in that moment or later?
I think for me, I don't know what it was, honestly. I just remember just being very emotional and just crying.
Yeah.
But I do know what you mean though when you say that. Like if you're there and then they just start to cry. I was one of those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be for you. Some people can like remember an event, but also it could be just that you've been so tense and so high strung for so long, and your muscles, and you're actually starting to like decompress and you're starting to relax. That's a release in itself, right? Like people are just so go, go, go all the time that they don't take time just to relax. And
that was me. That was me.
Yeah. So the third component was the emotion code. And so why I got, again, there's a reason why I got into it, is probably like 5 to 7 years ago, there was a lot of really stressful things going on in my immediate family. Someone in my immediate family was dealing with an addiction, and it was tearing my family apart. And a lot of it was kind of aimed at me. And I didn't know how to process it. I had so much anger coming up, so much resentment, so much like rage, almost like I just wanted to work all the time. I wasn't a runner, but I was like running, you know, like I didn't know what to do with this. And so I started going to this lady. I think she's in her 70s now, but she's a retired RN, and she was trained in all these other emotional release techniques. And I just went to her, and she started doing all these different modalities with me, including Reiki, EFT, hypnotherapy, and the emotion code. And I just remember when she started doing the emotion code with me, I just remember leaving feeling like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. I could like see things through a new lens. I didn't have so much anger in me anymore. And again, that was my like, oh my gosh, why is this working? You know? And so for years she told me, Teresa, you need to learn this and combine it with your body work, because you're going to be one of the few practitioners that are doing this combined, right? Not only are you releasing them on a physical level with the massage, but you could do the emotion code with them. And I was like, yeah, I'm too busy. I don't have time to learn it. But long story short, several things kept showing up in my path that it was like, Teresa, you need to learn this. Teresa, you need to learn this. Finally, I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn it.
What was some of those like little hints that the universe kept trying to tell you, like, you got to do this?
Just seeing my clients stuck, and like no matter what I did with them, their body physically wouldn't release because they just had this area in their neck or their hips that wouldn't release. And they were coming in once a week, and I was trying all these different techniques on them. And but the more they talked and opened up, like I knew it was connected to emotions that were trapped, which is right back to where this lady was telling me, you need to blend this. That was one of them. And then several things for me, like just kept showing up how I could help people learn the connection. And that's actually what actually inspired me. So not only have I experienced heightened stress over my life, you know, like marriage and raising kids and families with addiction and like all of that. So when you're under heightened stress and you're not releasing it in some format, over time, it starts to put a different vibration into your body. And so years ago, when I had a lot of stress, I got Bell's palsy. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Like your face.
Tell us.
So Bell's palsy is your face droops. So I remember I was talking to my husband. It was I think part of it was I had miscarried. And so my body was already under stress. And I remember, and something else happened. There was like a series of events, like things always happen in 2 and 3s, right?
Yeah.
And I remember talking to my husband, and he made me laugh, and I didn't feel my face go up. And I was like, what's going on? I went in the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and my right side of my face was drooping. Like when I smiled, it wouldn't move.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's Bell's palsy, almost like your face gets paralyzed.
Oh, wow.
It can be permanent or semi-permanent. Thankfully, mine was semi-permanent. I feel like when I get tired, I can still see it. This was like almost 20 years ago. But so that was a sign I was under heightened stress, like your immune system suppressed. And then there's been several other things over the years where my body just is like, you know, we don't listen to it. Like we're on autopilot. We just keep pushing until, you know, our body whispers to us and tells us like, hey, you need to slow down. Hey, you need to take care of this.
Yes.
And it's not until like something huge happens where your body's like, okay, you're not listening. I'm going to shut down.
That's right. You're not going to listen, bitch. Watch out. I'll make some shit happen. And then you're going to have no choice but to take a seat.
Yeah. And so this happened again for me on a massive level. I haven't shared this on too many platforms, so it's very personal. But
hey, you're on Naked Tax Talk.
Yeah,
we bear down to the naked truth, right?
So in October, there was a series of events that happened again, a lot of stress this past October, that a lot was going on. Like me and my husband were working through some heavy issues. There was work. I was crazy busy with work. I was just pushing myself physically. And I can't remember, there's like 3 major things going on. And so I could tell my body was getting fatigued, but I wasn't slowing down. And I decided to go try an ice bath for the first time in my life, because I figured like, you know, I've heard it's good for, you know, sore muscles. I figured, okay, on the long day of working with clients when I'm always sore and tired, I'll just go try an ice bath. So I went to my girlfriend's house. I tried an ice bath. And she's very into like setting intentions and all of that. So before I got in the ice bath, she like had me set an intention of, and my intention was just to like surrender and release. Like I'm done pushing and driving so hard, right? And I got into the ice bath. I was in there for 2 minutes. And when I got out, I think it was just like, that was like the last thing. Like my body was like, okay, you're done. And I got this surge of intense pressure on my neck to the point where I felt like a vice was around my neck. It was so tight that I felt like I was going to throw up. So I sit down. Anyways, long story short, she had to drive me home. I couldn't drive myself home because I was vomiting so hard that when I got home, my husband thought I was on something. And I was like, no, I promise I didn't take anything. Like I really felt like my body was purging all of the stress I had been holding on to and not communicating to certain people in my life how I was feeling. And my body was just like, you're done. And
Are you a bottler? Do you bottle up your emotions? Or you used to bottle them up?
Yes, I have a tendency
Me
to,
too.
but I've gotten much better now that I'm in my 40s, right? Like I've had
That's
to learn I've had to learn that the hard way.
I don't know. I think it's an age thing maybe because like I'm 40, right? I'm gonna look fabulous though, don't I? You look great too, girl. Let me tell you. But let me say, but like, yeah, so it's got to be an age thing because like you, I was a bottler. Like I just keep it all inside, and then you blow up, right? Bam. And like you're saying, the physical ailment of that stress actually manifesting, right?
Yeah.
And
So
now I'm like,
now
continue.
You don't bottle it in, right? So that happened, and then 2 days later it happened again. And the second time, my husband took me to the emergency room, and I got blood work done. I got CT scans. Everything came back like normal. Nothing was wrong. But that was another testament to me, like, okay, you got to stop shoving stuff down in and like deal with it, right? And that inspired me to start hosting online classes, like we were talking before, like the release the hips, release your emotions. And then I started hosting, I call them reset master classes. So I started teaching people how your emotions and your stress are connected to physical elements. And then I was teaching them tools, which are some of the main components I teach in my Unplugged program, of how do you process your emotions? How do you, make the connection of connecting back to yourself? Because a lot of people are so disconnected. And that's where a lot of this was inspired. It was like 20 years of working on clients. I just started to see themes of how and why people are stuck. Like 30s to 40s, now we're juggling our profession, or we're stuck in a profession we don't like, but we don't do anything about it. Or those who have kids are juggling both. And in the mix of all of that, they've lost themselves. They've become disconnected from themselves.
Yes.
And especially women. So that's what I specialize is working with women like 35 to 55 and just teaching them tools to, just reconnect to themselves at the core and really figure out what it is that they want and learn to communicate and vocalize that. So this is all stuff I've experienced. So with the acronym S.H.I.T, I can't take credit for that. That's actually one of my good friends who used to be my coach almost 10 years ago that she shared with me she shared with me, and I hosted my first summit, and she was one of my guest speakers. And so in our conversation, she said that acronym, and I was like, oh my gosh, that resonated with me so much that I was like, okay, like that's definitely what I'm helping my clients work through in releasing, realigning, and resetting, right? Like that stands for your stress, your habits, your irritation, and your triggers.
So that does sum it all up. All of that is shit.
Exactly.
And here's what I know about shit though. Shit, you put it on vegetables and flowers and they grow stronger and they grow from it, right?
Ooh,
I remember it's true. I remember when I was in college and my mentor had said that to me. It said, you know what, Jonathan, because he knew my background, my poverty, all that stuff. And so, he said to me, he goes, I want to tell you something, and I share this with you and now the world. And he had said, just always remember this, from cow shit, flowers grow. And it's what you're talking about is all that heavy weight that we carry around with us, right? The self-guilt, the judgment, all of that bullshit, right? We carry that with us. And it isn't like you say until we release it. That's like you blooming. It's like you're pushing through and now you're ready to bloom and blossom and become that beautiful, amazing person that you were born to be. And this is what you do. What's one tip, and just the tip, that you would be willing to share with us that can help us to start to brush away some of the shit so that we can blossom into who we are supposed to be?
I think the key thing that I've noticed just for so long working with clients is stop being so busy. Just start becoming more present. And that's
Yes.
something I had to learn too, because when you have time to be present, and that's like a whole module in my coaching program is the art of being present. So that's not only from like my clients being on the massage table and them kind of even disconnecting from their phone for 60 to 90 minutes, right? Or teaching a yoga class and their phone is like right next to them on the mat. I'm like, no, no phones allowed. Go put it away. Like you can just be for 60 minutes, and teaching them to turn off all their notifications. Like we don't have to be constantly on all the time and reactive, because what does that do? It shoots up our cortisol level, which then when we have high levels of stress, then that's when it starts to change the vibration in our body, and this is when it starts to cause disease and dysfunction in our body. So I would say one advice is look at your schedule and look where you can clear time to disconnect, or I call them kind of bookends. How do you start and end your day? So I teach
Mm.
my clients to do a power hour in the morning, and that's an hour of you doing stuff that's going to refill your cup. So I teach them gratitude journal, brag book, taking time to meditate and movement, all within that hour. I call it the power hour. Yeah, without checking your phone. So my phone is not by my nightstand anymore. I use an alarm clock, an old-fashioned alarm clock. I have
Yes.
it on the other side of my bedroom because what do we people? We get up, we constantly check in with everything else, and that's checking into everyone else's agendas, to-do list before we refill our cup. So
Yes,
I
that's
would
so
say that
true.
probably key is that. And then this is another practice I teach my clients in my program is it's a check-in process. So on a daily basis, I have them journal and ask 2 key questions. And this is what I learned from my friend Michelin Green when I coached with her like 10 years ago. It was so empowering for me is how am I feeling and what do I need?
I love that.
2 simple questions, right? But how
Yeah.
often as adults do we stop and check in with ourselves and ask those 2 simple questions? How am I feeling? And sit with that. Like I'm feeling really agitated. I'm feeling
Right.
irritable. Well, why? Well, because I've been constantly on the go. I'm not doing anything for me, and then what do I need? And this comes to like get empowering yourself. Does that mean I need to take a half day off and go do self-care? Or is it something I need to communicate to my partner and my kids or coworkers that they're not stepping up to help me with X, Y, and Z? And that's another thing where I see a lot with my clients is they get frustrated with another partner because they're not doing X, Y, and Z, but they're not communicating what it is they need. They're just automatically getting mad at them.
Yes. OMG bers. Oh gosh. So I talk a lot about this either with my husband or my boyfriend. Like I talk about exactly that. If we do not communicate our needs and then we just make an assumption, right? And make an ass out of you and me, if we just make an assumption,
Mm-hmm.
then what we find is turmoil, right? They feel a certain way, you feel a certain way, and your needs are not being met. And then this is how relationships end, and this is how things go awry. But if we just sit down and like what you said, which I love, right? And take that power hour, which I love, by the way, and even maybe take that power hour, not to run over your stuff, but I'm thinking like that's a great moment too to maybe sit with your spouse or your loved one and say, how are we feeling together, right, as a team? And then
Mm-hmm.
what are our needs and what are we needing in this moment? So case in point, so my husband, he's from New Jersey, so I know you New Jerseyans out there, and they show their love by like picking on you. So that like, like I don't know how to describe it. It's crazy to Southwesterners. You're like, oh my God, did he just say and do that? Like, oh my God, right? So like he'll pick on me. So he'll be like, you left your shirt on the floor again, or all the time, right? And it was becoming to be too much. Like he had started to cross a line where it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't about affection and it felt more personal.
Yeah.
And so we've been together 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to him, I sat down, and I just told him, I was like, you know what, babe, like I know that you tease me. It's one way that you show your affection for me, and I get that. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, but this time around, it's a little bit too much, and it's starting to hurt my feelings. And so, of course, he took corrective actions. He has not teased me as hard. He'll probably tease me now because he's right here listening to what I'm saying, right? So, but this is just who he is. But
Yeah.
this is what the need is, right? The need is to communicate how I feel, because
Yeah.
if you don't communicate it, we're not mind readers.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
and that's, I mean, I still struggle with that even with my husband. We've been together almost 24 years. So it's like, I know when things get bad, it's because I'm pulling back and I'm pulling away. And
Hmm.
another thing I've had to work through, since we're sharing all sorts of fun stuff, is when I was in grade school, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And so sometimes that makes it difficult in how I communicate, because I know what I'm feeling in my heart, or I know what I want to say in my head, but then when it comes out, it's jumbled, or it just doesn't flow like I was thinking. And
Mm.
same with paper, like, and so I've used that as like, well, never mind, you don't get it because I'm getting. He's like, you can't use it as a crutch anymore, which is true. Like, he calls me on it, right? Like, okay, I need to own it. I need to stop being a baby about this and just try and communicate my best to him without getting frustrated. And back to this auto, being vulnerable and sharing. Like, when I was at this autoimmune disease retreat in Sedona, they had a coach come in and they did this guided meditation with us. I don't remember what it was called, but he said us to pick a number and he helped us work through something. And the number I picked out was the year I was diagnosed having dyslexia.
Mm.
And I got, every time I know I'm supposed to share something, I get this like nervous gut feeling like, okay, you need to say something, speak up. And I'm
Yes.
like, this is little, like, people are sharing like some really deep, way like more stuff than I felt like I needed to share, right? And I was like, no, I'm supposed to share this. So I did, and I explained that. I said, I struggle with communication with my husband at times, and I shut down, and then that makes it worse because then
Right.
we're not getting anywhere, and that's me trying to work through my own insecurities of having dyslexia. And how I explain it is, it's like, I know what I want to say, but I feel like I'm trapped sometimes. I'm like, no, you're not hearing what I want to say, and anyway, so I shared how that interaction affects our relationship. I was just very open, and one of the girls in the circle just started bawling, and the whole time she was talking really badly about her husband and their marital problems. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, my husband has dyslexia." And he kept trying to tell me that he has a hard time communicating to me, and I just thought it was BS,
Wow. Wow.
because I just didn't think he wanted to work on it anymore. And I
Wow.
was like, that's why I was supposed to share. But she's like, so it gave her a whole new perspective and actually realized her husband was being honest. Like, she's
Yeah.
like, the way you explain it is exactly what he has said to me, word for word almost.
It's interesting because the truth of the matter is that we are vehicles to help people on their path, right? So, as a Buddhist, we believe that Buddhas emanate everywhere. So, Buddha simply means an enlightened being. And it's somebody who has found inner peace within themselves and now have come back to help others as well, right? The teacher of
Mm,
enlightened being, right? To come
yeah.
back and help others. And so the truth of the matter is every single one of us is a Buddha. Every single one of us is God. Every one of us is a higher power, right? And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes the universe is using us as a conduit to deliver a message. And it's interesting because you said like, oh, you know what? I don't want to share this, but I'm going to share it anyways. And you did, because this is what I've learned. This is what I've learned is that you and I are having this conversation right now, right? And it's like I'm having a fun time. I'm being entertained. I'm loving what you're saying. And I sometimes I wonder, like, what's my audience going to think about this? But then I always remember this: every word that we're saying is going to land on someone to hear what we're talking about, right? They're going to go,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh yes," and by you sharing that, right? So what I've also learned, another truth, is that when we speak our truth, right, be it our experiences, right, that's why I say, like, just talk about what we're talking about, because the truth is, when we do, someone else is going to get that message. We're empowering somebody else by not holding it in like you and I like to do
Mm-hmm.
with our emotions, right? Holding it in. And so we discover if we can just let it out and
Yeah.
share and become vulnerable.
Yeah.
Boom, bada bang. I want to come back. I know we're going to go over time. So I'm going to tell my audience right now, we're probably going to talk a little longer because I do want to answer your two tax questions.
Okay.
But
I
I
feel like
want to
we can talk for
reverse.
another 30 minutes, but okay.
Yeah, no, no, not too long. But I want to reverse really fast to the drug addiction thing you brought up. And
Mm,
because this is a really powerful situation. So I too, unfortunately, have dealt with a drug, not me personally dealing with drug addiction, but dealing with family members with drug
mm-hmm.
addiction. And at one point, I had a family member that reached out to me, and I was their last resort. And so, to protect the innocent, we won't use their names, but
Yeah.
we'll just say her name was Mary. And so, he just so I go out and I bring her to my home. And so she was with us for 3 months and I was helping her through her addiction. And it was a bad drug, AKA heroin. And really, really bad drug. And so supposedly there was recovery there and this and that, whatever. And unfortunately, I had almost allowed this person to destroy my marriage.
Mm,
And the reason for it is because I, for some reason, was like put under a spell and I couldn't see what was really going on. And that was I was being pitted, my husband against my relative, my cousin. Like I was being pitted
mm,
against the two, right?
yeah.
And for some reason, I had this philosophy that blood family is thicker than blood. And yet what my cousin was saying was more valuable and more important and therefore was truth versus what my husband was saying. 'Cause my husband was like, this shit ain't real. Like, what are you talking about? Right. So long story short, ultimately I would remove her from my home. I'd say you have to leave. And so she left. And what's fascinating is for the longest time, I was very hurt by this, right? 3 months, took a lot of money, took a lot of possessions, blah, 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 right? The whole list goes on. And I'll tell you what I did is, and her, if you're watching, you know who you are. If you're watching, um, I ultimately came to see her as a Buddha who came to teach me a lesson. And
Mm,
what she taught me was patience. What she taught me was wisdom. What
mm,
she taught me was compassion. She taught me what delusional giving is, which is not pure giving. There's a difference between the two. And
mhm,
so, with all of that, at the end of the day, and she knows this because I already gave her thanks for this too, but I really, really, really am thankful that I went through what I went through
mm,
because it changed my life. And now I know the difference between an enabler and a helper. I learned that from someone living with me for 3 months. And what I did is I took that lesson and I brought it to my business. And
mm,
so when people come to us, like in your same situation, when they come to us because they're in pain, they need something to be resolved,
yeah,
right? I can help them, which is you're going to pay me to resolve your problem.
yeah,
But if I enable them by saying, "Oh, I'll do it for you for nothing," or in fact, I won't even teach you what I'm going to do, so you can take it for yourself for the rest. I'm
mm,
simply enabling them to continue to be a financial mess,
yeah.
right? And
You're not
so
giving the whole solution.
no. So it's kind of fascinating that you mentioned that because this is what, in my opinion, a lot of what an addict, those of us who have had to deal with this, is that it helps to teach us. There's a lesson inside of that. And my lesson was, of course, ultimate patience. Ultimate patience.
I think one of the lessons I learned in all of that is I had to finally set hard, healthy boundaries and stick to it. Like
Yes.
stop. Like I always grew up as the peacemaker, trying to make everyone happy, and that's why I was like I wouldn't vocalize what I wanted, and and so yeah, so I had to learn to vocalize that, like healthy boundaries, and state them to the people in my life that I was struggling with. This is my decision. I want
Yes.
you to respect it. And even though it
Yes.
wasn't heard at times, I had to keep repeating it. No, this is my decision. I'm not going back on it.
Yes.
So
But that's it. Boundaries is powerful, and I did not understand that either. And now I do. And sometimes, I was afraid of being looked at like as a dick or as a bitch. If you're a woman, they're going to call you a bitch, right? If you're like, these are my boundaries and I'm stuck, right? They'll call me a dick because I'm a man, right? Like, this is boundaries. But
yeah.
what I learned is that the boundaries is actually what keeps us in check. It's what preserves our power so that
Hmm.
we don't drain our energy, right? We don't muck up our chakras, right? We don't
Yeah.
develop the muscle cramps, right? So that we can stay within inside our power to continue to do what we're supposed to do in this life. Teresa, thank you so much for being a guest here. But you have 2 questions, and I
I
want to
do.
slide them in the last 20 minutes that we have. And so, what is one of your questions that I can help bring light to?
So when you're creating a business, I am asking this because I have two LLCs, and I'm in
Okay.
the process of phasing out of one and stepping into another to grow that business. I guess it could go to the same. So is it better to have an LLC or an S Corp?
Ooh, I'm glad you brought this up. So let's talk about this. And I cover this in detail in my course, Rapid Tax Savings Formula. So, but right now, I'll give you the surface level. So, what we have to understand that there's two issues when it comes to the entity structure. So, LLC, corporation, partnership, right? But in general, though, these are what we call like legal entities, a limited liability company or a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
So, one question is the legal protection. My coach, my former coach, we're still best friends right now. That's who she's on right now. Her name is Chevelle McPherson. She's actually a lawyer, so she deals and is helping people set up this stuff. But she's a badass coach, and she taught me how to do what I do today, really. And needless to say, it's one is about a legal protection, and I use sex to explain this. So the way I say this is that right now, if you were not an LLC and you're by yourself and you started your business,
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend, you're having unsafe sex. And as
Mm-hmm.
a result, all it takes is one nasty STD to take you out. And because you play unsafely, Uncle Sam charges a premium for the tax to do that. An LLC, it's like using a dental dam. So it might protect direct transmission, but stuff can still kind of come out from the sides, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
right, things are still open, but it's still pretty strong. Don't get me wrong. It's not a thin dental dam, it's pretty thick, all right? Now, the next layer is C for condom or corporation. And they are 99.99% effective, right, against STDs and also a corporation in terms of lawsuits, right? So it's going
Okay.
to really protect you, right?
Mhm.
And as a result, Uncle Sam says, you know what? I'm going to charge you a different tax premium. It's not quite his words, but that's kind of the way I say it, a
Yeah.
different tax premium for conducting business in those ways. So, first of all, there's a legal issue. What's your protection? So, you're thinking, I want to be an LLC, I want to use a dental dam. That's great, right? But what we have to talk about is the tax side of it. So, there's a tax structure behind the legal structure. So, sole proprietors or single member LLCs, like yourself, probably,
Yeah.
from a tax perspective, pays on a high end a combined tax of 52.3% tax if you take no action. So that's a high premium, 52.3%. Let that sink in just for a second.
For an LLC is what you're saying.
For a single member LLC filing on a personal income tax return. Yes.
Okay.
Now, in my class, I go into details. I explain all this really clear, I promise. So the next layer then is the corporation. So the corporation, Uncle Sam says, you know what, Teresa, I like that you're practicing safe sex. I like that you're all about protecting yourself, your
Mm-hmm.
business. And so because of that, I'm going to reward you by having you pay a lower tax premium for
Okay.
conducting that kind of business. And so right now it's 21% is the flat tax rate, but there's a catch. You see, when a company earns profit, it has a decision to make. It either keeps the profit and reinvests it back into the business, or it pays it out to the shareholders as a corporation. We call this a dividend. So the dividend gets issued and you pick it up now on your personal income taxes as a dividend income, subjecting you to tax there as well. So you often will hear people say double taxation because of the requirement to pay out the profits and earnings from
Mm,
the corporation to the shareholders.
okay.
So one day, Congress was like, you know what? We want the best of both. We want the best of both worlds. We want to have decent sex, still practice safe a little bit, but we also don't want to be stuck at the corporate level. And so we also want the legal protection and the better tax treatment. And
Mm,
so they invented this code called the Subchapter S of the Corporate Tax Code. And the S Corp basically the S Corporations marries the LLC
mm-hmm.
protections and it marries it with the corporate tax code and it marries it together and it morphs into called the S corporation. So the S corporation effectively bypasses the corporate tax,
Mm,
does not have to pay out these profits as dividends, right? But there's a loophole. There's a catch. All shareholders of C or S corporations who are actively participating, that would be you,
Mm-hmm.
are required to pay themselves a minimum compensation. And this is where people get themselves in hot water. They go and they say, I heard I should go from an LLC and elect to be treated as an S corporation. And they do that. But what they don't realize is the moment you said to Uncle Sam, I want to act like I'm a corporation,
Mm-hmm.
you have to put in a whole bunch of documents in order to prove that you're going to act and be treated like that. That's the first thing. The second thing they fail to realize is you are required to pay yourself a compensation. So we're talking wages. We're talking possibly some fringe benefits in there that are going to be taxable to you as a shareholder. So there's a lot of ways in which we have to keep you compliant because Uncle Sam is going to come back and say, Teresa, you're trying to act like a corporation, but you're not quite acting like it on paper. You're not
Mm-hmm.
really a corporation. And so then you're going to lose all of those benefits and he's going to revoke it for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So the truth of the matter is that it's a question of when. When do you switch from the LLC to the S Corp? You want to know the answer? Join my class, Rapid Tax Savings Formula, and I will tell you exactly when you
When?
should make that switch.
Okay.
So that is the truth. But yes, the LLC and S Corp, it's an issue of how the money flows and the taxation along with the legal protection.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of information, but started a conversation with another accountant, and he gave me the very basic overview. But again, I need to know when because I'm in this transition phase of phasing out of one into another. So,
Yes. And you
yeah.
may not want to do that. As a tax strategist, oftentimes what we do is we help our clients to determine when is it appropriate to shift the income? When
Mm,
is it appropriate to shift the expenses?
okay.
When is it appropriate to find legal loopholes? When is it appropriate to determine how to find tax-free income? So the truth is that you as a business owner, right? It's about making money. That's the reason why you and I went into business. Let's be real right now, right? It is about serving. It is about all that fun stuff that we talk about in sales. But let's be real. It's about the money. And so because it is about the money, and like I say, con mucho dinero, Uncle Sam gets this principle and
Yeah.
he's all about it, right? Teresa, he wants you to make a profit and he wants you to take those profits and he wants you to strategically decide where to put that money to make you more money. And when he comes a knocking, he's going to ask you, where did you put your money? And then he's going to say, okay, on the leftovers, then you're going to pay me some tax. Tax that's actually going to go back to the community, right? It's going to pay for our roads, our education, our police, our fire, right?
Yeah.
So to some degree, it's not about total elimination, it's about mitigation and bringing it downward. So what I would say is that when it comes to switching the entity, to dissolve it altogether may not be the wisest of choices because
Okay.
sometimes we'll use multiple businesses to accomplish a goal for the business owner. Case in point, I have 3 companies. I have JB Financial, my 18-year-old that does my tax prep and tax planning, right? That's my firm. I have my show, Naked Tax Talk Raw, which is my marketing really for what I'm doing here, my stage.
Yeah.
And I have jonathanbangle.com, which is my coaching and advisory company. And yet, all 3 of them work together so that I can be here in my fabulous backyard and have this amazing life.
Yeah. Sounds good. I definitely need to learn some more of the ins and out of what you're saying for sure.
Yes. And then
So,
what was your second question? We got time. We got 10 more minutes. What's your second question?
second question is when you're building a business, and as we all know, as entrepreneurs, a lot of it comes to personal development. Do you
Yes.
go into debt hiring these coaches and strategists and all of that, or do you bootstrap it and as you make money, you keep investing back? So
Okay.
I've gone into debt, but I'm at a place where I'm being really mindful of now taking the next step. Do I want to go back into debt again to invest in myself to go to the next level of where I'm wanting to go?
So in my personal opinion, I might offend some of you financial advisors out there, but hey, it's my show. In my personal opinion, we have to understand that there's things called good debt and bad debt. All right. So good debt would be like a mortgage on a home, right? Because we all need shelter.
Yeah.
I would rather have a fixed mortgage payment than a variable rent payment, right? And the reason why that's important to me is because my mother would get evicted for no reason because she didn't understand her rights, right? So for me, home ownership was really important for me. So good debt, mortgages, good debt, student loans, right? Because I become educated, I become more empowered, right? Bad debt, I go and I want a brand new computer, but I don't have the money, so I use a credit card and I swipe to buy it for personal use, right? So I want something for myself personally, bad debt, right? It's not good, right?
Yeah.
So instead, the good debt is where we go, okay, but am I going to get back my return on my investment? And that's the question we have to always ask ourselves as a business owner. If I put out this money, am I going to get it back? And when am I going to get it back? Right? That's the question. So, for example, a client, we saved 267,000 and some change in taxes overnight, right now, right now. And they invested with us close to 70 grand to make that happen, right? Not a bad deal. You pay me 70, but I put back in your pocket 267, right?
That's a good investment.
Not a good. So they go, oh, shoots. Well, we don't have the money. We don't have 70 grand to just give you. So what if they do? They financed it, right? Because they know they're guaranteed in a way. I can't really say that per se, but they know that's what's coming back in their pocket.
Yeah.
So we have to ask ourselves, what is the return on that investment? Listen, I was on a stage not long ago. I put out some money, right? When I added the time that I had to speak and I divided that by the total cost of the investment, it came out to $20 a minute. That's more expensive than the 900 number, right? So then from there, I have to ask myself, what's the likelihood that I'm going to see that come back, be it through a referral, be it through a lead, but to generate back the investment I put out. So when we're thinking about putting money out to grow, we have to ask ourselves three fundamental questions. The first, which is in my book, by the way, both of the first questions are in my book, The ABCs of Deductions. We have to ask ourselves, is what I'm about to spend money for my business? Is this a business expense? Well, let's talk about that. Is it ordinary and is it necessary for me to spend this money?
Ordinary. That's an interesting question. Is it ordinary? Because a lot of
Is it
things as an
ordinary?
entrepreneur, I wouldn't categorize as ordinary what you invest in.
Right. So is it ordinary? And I
No.
go into details in my course, Rapid Tax Savings Formula, and in my book. Is it ordinary and is it necessary? And if we could say yes to these two questions, and there's a lot more behind what I'm not saying, if we could say yes to those two things, we have a potential deduction on our hands, right? Which means we can reinvest it in our company so that we can make more money. Because Uncle Sam is all about the greenbacks. He doesn't care about your emotions. He doesn't care about anything. He cares that you, as an entrepreneur, you, my viewers, make money. That's what he cares about. And he also cares that money transfers. I make money from someone investing in me to unlock $267,000 in tax savings. I turn around and I reinvest my money with another coach, or I reinvest my money with advertising to continue to be seen, right? That's the idea. That is
Right.
exactly it. So do you find it ordinary and necessary for your business? Then you have to ask the third question. What is the return on my investment? What's the potential of getting that money back? So for
I think
example,
that's always a clear answer, though, especially if you're investing with a coach, right? Like it's always a variable with that.
So here's what we have to do. We have to be analytical and we have to be critical, right? So we have to then start asking critical questions to the person that we're about to start investing our money with. So we have to start asking questions like, well, tell us about, like, I know you said that you can make me triple digits, but do you have other evidence to provide that for me? Though they
Mm,
will. Like my coach Chevelle, absolutely. She did that for me. She was like, "Yep, here's a client you can go talk to. Yep, here's the numbers you can prove it to you." Right? She
yeah.
charged me. She charged me a pretty penny. I'll tell you that right now, Chevelle. I'm telling the world, you did. She charged me a lot. But guess what? Tripled, quadrupled the amount of money I got back from her, and she's a sales coach, right? So a lot of it is you have to ask for evidence, right? Show it to me, prove it to me, because this is what Uncle Sam's going to do to you when he comes knocking and audits you. Show me the
Mm,
proof,
yeah.
prove it to me. And so we have to. So if you're going to be talking to a coach, sales coaches, etc., I'm asking, let me talk to your current clients and your past clients, and I want to know from them what the kind of money they made off of working with you. It's critical we start thinking like this when working with coaches.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, Chevelle McPherson, girl, I'm giving you a big shout out because let me tell you, she was worth it right now. I'm telling you all right now. Ordinary for those in my field to do and necessary to make me more money. Yes, ma'am. Ordinary for those in my field and necessary to make more money. And case in point, it's about profit. It's about making money and paying less in taxes. I go over this in detail in Rapid Tax Savings Formula, but that's what it boils down. Yes, ma'am. That's right. We know that about you, Chevelle. She's
Right.
not cheap. She's a Rolls Royce. Yes, she is. And thanks to her, she turned me into a Maserati. So,
Oh, there you
I
go.
used to be a Kia something, Kia Sorrento. I am now a Maserati. So thank you, coach. So it's really about what they tell you. You know how I knew my coach was real? You know how I knew I was going to get back my money from my coach? Damn you, Chevelle. Chevelle, you got on my show. So what happened is her and we were chilling on the Bahamas. True story. We're on a cruise together. It's called Marketers Network Cruise. Shout out to you guys. And we're hanging out, her and I, Chevelle and I fell in love. Boom. And she starts to tell me all kinds of things, all kinds of things. And I was like, this woman's real, man. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's doing. Girlfriend, let me tell you, Chevelle, you know, right? I had to go to her and exactly. So I called her up. Hold on. I gotta tell her. So I called her up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, Chevelle, I love you. I think you're amazing. Like you're the bomb. Like, can we work together, please? You know what she said to me? Chevelle, if your ass was here right now, I'd be telling you this, but I'm telling you right now. You know what she said to me? Well, the thing is, I only work with women, and like you're not really the kind of person I want to work with because you're kind of a dude and I work with women, right? So I was like, please, I
No.
promise I'll be a good student. I'll be the best student you've ever had. Girl, am I the best student you ever had?
Girl, that's so
So
exciting.
I turned around and I begged her. And she said, okay, so for her Rolls Royce price, I paid her. Let me tell you, that's exactly what she said to me. Give yourself a raise. Those were her first words right out of her mouth. Give yourself a raise. As soon as I paid her the money, that was her advice. Give yourself a raise. And I stood in my power and I quadrupled my rates that night.
Mm.
Girlfriend, now, thanks to my coach, people want to be on one on one. You want to work with me one on one? You're looking at a multi six figures to do that with me now one on one. Why? Because I believe in who I am. I accept who I am. I understand who I am. I was here to transform the lives of entrepreneurs like yourself, Teresa, to take you so that you can understand your numbers, so that you can understand your financials, so that you can come to me and go, Jonathan, should I invest in this coach? And then I'm going to be like, mm-hmm, mm-mm, right? Because the truth is the numbers tell us the truth. We use our gut, we use our intuition, we look at
Yeah.
all the facts and circumstances, right? You cannot go in it at it alone. And that's what Chevelle did with me. She's like, nope, together we're going to be on this cruise for 8 days. And that's exactly what we did. And she educated me. And thanks to my coach, this is the power of working with a coach. My coach, Chevelle, she helped me to create Rapid Tax Savings Formula. She helped me to market it. By the way, coach, I forgot to tell you, but I have a new lead magnet. It's called Easy Steps to Financial Happiness. We're about ready to launch it so others can get their hands on it. And what people lie, numbers don't. That's right. So, and check it out. And I was the best student ever. Thank you. Thank you. So, but yes, coach. So I put together a lead mag. It's called the 5 Easy Steps to business financial happiness. Needless to say, when you invest with the right coach, they
Hmm.
will take you far. Teresa, I would invest with you if you cleared up all of my chakras, right? If you took my muscles and relaxed them, because you and I both know this to be true. When
Yeah.
we are not stressed, there is no barrier to fear, which means I can make better informed decisions. I can hold myself in the power of my confidence to make more money, to make better decisions, but ultimately to take my profit and give it back to myself, to yourself, so you can live the life you
Hmm.
dreamt about. But more importantly, so that you can realize the dreams of your husband and your children. That is why you're an entrepreneur. That is why
Yeah.
you are a powerful, badass CEO, and that's why you were born.
Well, thank you. Yes. I think
Yes,
that I don't
ma'am.
know, just stood out right now to share like one thing I changed a couple years ago that was very empowering is I looked at the flow of my week. This comes back to being present and checking in with yourself. And I realized that I needed a day midweek to take self-care. Because again, I have 3 kids, I run a business, and Wednesdays is always a long day with clients, and I'm always hurting and tired. But then on Thursday, I would schedule meetings with my marketer, like meetings with other people, and I just wasn't there mentally. So a couple years ago, I started blocking off Thursdays until noon. I don't schedule anything. And that was huge for me because then I know I have the morning to go back to sleep if I want to after I drop my kids off at school. Like that's when I schedule all my self-care, my massages, my acupuncture, anything, the chiropractor, whatever it is I need to do. I know I have that window of time that's for me. Or sometimes me and my husband just hang out at home or we'll go to breakfast or whatever. It's like it's not scheduled all the time. I have that downtime to unplug. That was
Yes,
for me.
that's it. And listen, you're the boss. So
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
give yourself permission to do what you want, right?
Yeah.
Like my coach Chevelle, where are you at right now these days? By the way, she loves you. She's so awesome, she says.
Well, thank
Chevelle, I
you.
think, was in Bali. By the way, she was just in like Pennsylvania or something like that. Weren't you, girl? Shoots. So she was somewhere. She was in New Jersey somewhere. Now she's traveling the world, right?
Nice.
Because we finally give ourselves permission to go
Yes.
live the life that we want. And that's what it's about. Entrepreneurship is about tapping into that want and that need
Mm-hmm.
and making money. So with that, Teresa, thank you so much for being a guest here on my show. I hope
Thank
I
you
helped
for
you a
having
little
me.
bit. Did I shine
Yes.
some light for you?
Yes. And now I have more questions and I just want to take your course more now.
Yes, 2 months of self-care, she said, by the way. She's in Bali. Yes, take
Awesome.
my class. By the way, shout out real fast. If you are watching the show today or by tomorrow morning, the classes start tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific time. That goes till 5 p.m. Pacific time. 5 weeks long. And we walk you through the 5 pillars of financial happiness, which are profit mindset. Because, girl, you got to believe you're worth it. Number two,
Yes.
we talk about that separation of self. Why? Because you're not your business and your business is not you.
That's
You
huge.
got
Just I struggle with that point
oh,
right
oh, we're gonna talk about how we undo all that shit, and then we talk about the entities, right? As I said earlier in the show, I use sex to explain these entities so you can make an informed decision. When should I go? And then, of course, we're going to talk about those deductions. We're going to talk about how to put your kids to work and pay them, how to put your spouse to work and pay them, maybe how to utilize all the space in your home to maximize those deductions legally downward, right? And then
there.
ultimately, we're going to talk about how to audit proof yourself. That's through documentation. Chevelle, she's a lawyer. She understands this. She does this for people, right? It's all about protecting yourself first at the entity level, but then it's protecting yourself through the compliance tax side of it so that you don't
Mm,
lose your profit. And
yeah.
that's the ultimate truth. So, with that rapid tax savings formula, you're a woman, or you're a good fellow out there, and you're wanting to take your business to the next level. And here's the beautiful thing, Teresa. I'm going to make an assumption. The investment is $997. Now, coach, hold on now. I know she's going to be like, that was your price like 5 months ago. Why aren't you raising it to like 1997? I know, coach. I'm going to get there. But here's the thing, right? 997. Did you know Uncle Sam is going to help subsidize that? By when it comes time to file your taxes, he's going to ask you, Teresa, what'd you do this year? And you're going to say, I attended this course here called Rapid Tax Savings Formula. It was ordinary for me as a business owner to take this because I need to learn things about my business. And it was necessary because I have to know these things so I can make more money. So
Mm,
he's going to say, oh, fantastic. Well, you know what, Teresa, I'll tell you what. You're going to deduct that from your total income. And instead of paying me money, I'm going to let you get back 50% of that potentially. That's what we're looking at. Someone like you who files a Schedule C pays 52.3% tax. My tax experts out there, don't you come back being all like, but da 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 da. No, 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 no. Because in my class, I explain how our tax system is actually structured. And you're going to see how it's 52.3%.
got
So,
a lot to
yes, ma'am.
learn.
A lot. I'm super excited. So with that, again, I appreciate you being here with me, and
Thank you
I
for
would like
inviting
to
me.
thank you. Oh, by the way, oh my gosh, my coach is watching me right now, and she's waiting for it. I can hear her. By the way, Chevelle, we got to catch up, girl, because when I was at this talk thing I was giving a few days ago, all I could hear was you saying 5 minutes, 30 seconds introduction, 4 minutes to give them your lead magnet. Why aren't you giving them your lead magnet? And I didn't do that. So, coach, I'm sorry, but I promise I'll do a better job next time. So, my coach is watching. So, I'm going to get the link right now to Rapid Tax Savings Formula so that you and my viewers can go click on it and you guys can go and register for it. It starts tomorrow. Seating is limited. We're up to 5 students. I cap it at 10 because here's where I'm different. It's about teaching in the moment. It's about
Mm,
giving advice in the moment, not to 100 people in the moment based on those needs.
yeah.
And so, if you are interested, I know you are, and I know my viewers are. Here's the link. I'm going to post it in the comments right now. Go do it. 997 is a great small investment. I promise you, you'll quadruple, quadrillion, multiple, you'll zuduple it back definitely in your tax savings. So, needless to say, yes, that's right. That's right, coach. 997 is great. Everyone sign up before I make him give himself another raise. Hey, listen, if my coach tells me to move, I move. So, thank you, coach. So, anyways, Teresa, thank you so much. And, Teresa, this is what I know about life. We are not capable of owning and possessing anything in this world, including our emotions. And so I want you to know that by you being a guest here, you actually brought me a lot of joy and happiness today. And I really appreciate you being here with me.
Oh,
And
thank you.
so I would love to dedicate this feeling of joy and happiness back to you. May you be happy. May you be free of suffering. And may you never be separated from your happiness. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Me too. I've had a great time. If you're enjoying my show here on Naked Tax Talk and you found this information to be valuable, one, make sure you subscribe and hit the alert button. But number two, do me a favor and share it with your friends. Sharing is caring. So with that, I'm Jonathan Bengal, and always remember, we went into business to make mucho, mucho, mucho dinero. Thank you so much. And by the way, in closing, my coach Chevelle, Teresa, you are awesome. I love your story and knowledge. And by the way, she was
Thank
here watching the
you.
show the whole time. So
Yes,
with
thank
that,
you.
toodles noodles. Until then.